Welcome to Valroc, the famous city of wizards. You've been preparing for years for its tournament in order to acquire the Archmage title. For that, you will have to fight terrible creatures in the arena. You will need skill points in the 4 elements to defeat them. You can read those skill points on your player board. And you will earn skill points by training yourself at the training area by a push your luck mechanism. You can also find some powerful artifacts by digging at the cavern. Don't forget to pray to the gods, and if you're generous enough in your offerings, you will have some reward. Also, there is a little monk over there, and if you're generous, he will be happy and will join you to help you during the next. You can also attend magical lessons. Most of them will give you permanent powers to help you during the game. To carry out all these actions, you will need 2 main resources. The first one is the magical power, and the second one is Veils, the Valroc currency. And if you are sneaky, you can even use black magic at the Dark Town. It will bring you good advantage and bring interaction because you can bother your opponent, but be careful. If you overuse it, you will lose some prestige points at the end of the game. So Valroc is a worker placement game. Each player has 3 different characters with specific powers that they will be able to place on the several locations of the main board by a planification phase, and then we will resolve the places one by one in a defined order. The game ends when someone has defeated all his 6 creatures, and then we look who has the most prestige. So Valroc is a 2 to 4 players game of around 1 hour and starting from 14 years old. Let's take a quick look at the setup of the game. You have the main board, and placed on them you have some cards. You have the lesson cards at the university, you have the action cards next to the training area, and you have black magic cards and spell cards to the Dark Town. Each player has a player board and has 3 in magical power, 1 for each skill points, and 0 for the hybrid tracks at the beginning of the game. All players start with 3 veils. You can also find some veils around the board next to the tavern and the dig tokens next to the cavern. We also set the turn track that will move at the end of each turn and the hunting board that will be placed randomly for each game. For 3 players we also add a little cross on the second location of the training area. For 2 players we even add a cross on the second location of the Magic Fontaine, another one on the second location of the tavern, a cross on the third location of the training area, another one on the second location of the arena, and finally another cross on the cavern. We begin at the fire room and it will move at the end of each round. Let's begin the explanation with the creature cards. How do we read a creature card? We have several information on these cards. We have first the needed skills to defeat the creatures. So for example, to defeat sparkles I will need 4 water and 3 earth skills. When I defeat it, it will bring me 2 prestige points at the end of the game. You just need the skills that you will read on your player board, you don't lose them. But you also need magical power, and that you must spend because there is a minus next to it. So for example, for sparkles, I must spend 3 magical power. Another information on the creature cards are the background. For example, sparkles has an affinity in air and in fire, but you can also find some creatures with earth affinity, with water and air. You also have simple affinity for water. And what's the purpose of it? For each tournament, judges decide on the importance of each element. So here, for 4 players, for example, it is air, water, fire and earth. At the end of the game, we will look who has defeated the most air creatures, and that player will have 9 points. The second one will have 7, and the third one defeating the most air creature will get only 5 points. Then we do the same for the other rows. So for water it is less important, so it will bring less points, and fire and earth even less. Some creatures like sparkles are hybrid because they have 2 affinities here in air and fire. They are more powerful because they will count for 2 rows in the hunting board. In counterpart, during the game, for each hybrid creatures defeated, we will move on the hybrid tracks and you will lose prestige points for that. Finally, you will also find tameable creatures. Tameable creatures has bonuses on the left of the cards, like sparkles, and once defeated, you can ride them into battle. It will bring you some bonuses to help you for the other battles. You don't move on the player board because you can have several tamables, but you can use only one tamable at a time. You can switch at any time, but only one, so you will have to move. The other reason is that we can go on negative on your player board. So for example, I have -2 in Earth, but I don't go below 0. You will be able to choose the creatures you will have to defeat in the tournament by a draft phase. Let's go through this. There are 4 steps in the draft phase. First, we will draft the tameable creatures. Then we will draft the wild creatures. And then the mythical creatures. We will have 3 cards of each, and there will be final steps to choose, lastly, only 6 creatures. So mythical creatures are creatures that will bring a lot of prestige, but will ask you to have many skill points. You have wild creatures, easier to fight and will bring less points, and finally the tamables that will bring you bonuses to help you defeat other creatures. So we start with tameable creatures. We deal 4 tameable creatures to each player. We choose one of them and we give the rest of the deck to the next player, first clockwise. We do it until we have 3 tameable creatures. When we do the same for wild creatures, we choose one, but we give the deck on the other side. We still do this until we have 3 wild creatures, and then we do the same with mythical, and again we will turn the deck clockwise and do it until we have 3 mythical creatures. So at the end of the step 3, each player has 3 tamables, 3 wilds and 3 mythical, making 9 cards, and we are making a last choice to choose only 6 creatures. If you're playing the classic version, you will have to choose exactly 2 mythical creatures, but you can play an easiest game by choosing only 1 mythical creature, or a longer game by choosing 3 mythical creatures. Of course, each player has to have the same number of mythical creatures. For the rest, you pick as you want, and how you will choose that, of course, you will look at the needed skills on the right. You will also look at the tamables and the bonuses they bring you. You will also look at the tamables and the bonuses that brings you. And lastly, you will look at the hunting board and so the affinities of the creatures. The first player will be the player who took the more risk in his draft phase, and that means the player who has the most prestige points in this creature deck. So as I told you before, it's a worker placement game. Each player has 3 different characters, a wizard, his assistant and a mercenary, that we can place on the different location of the board. For example, if I'm first player, I will place one of my pawn on the location. Then the second player do the same. When it will come back to me, I will place a second pawn and eventually a third pawn, because the mercenary is optional. I will come back with this point later. After each character are placed, we are reserving the places one by one in a defined order. The order is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and last the arena in 8. So it's the reading order, but with the exception for the arena. Some things are forbidden. For example, we can't place 2 of our pawns in the same location, so this is forbidden. Also, some locations are available only for the wizard. It's the example for the arena, for the training area, and on some magical lesson. You have a magical scepter on this location to show this, and at the opposite, the wizard will never go to the dark town because it is bad for his reputation, so he sends the other one do the dirty jobs. And finally, when you want to place the mercenary, you must pay him immediately 2 veils to place him. And in counterpart, he won't bring you any money back. If he finds money, he'll keep it for him. So you can place him at the tavern, but you won't earn the veils for that. So now let's look at the different places of Valroc. I won't explain the effect in the order we resolve it, but in a logical order. Let's begin with the most famous place of the city, the arena. When you go there with your wizard, you show that you can defeat one creature. You must spend the magical power here. The first one defeating a creature in the round earn also 2 veils. The second one 1 veil, the other one 0. Then we have the magic fountain. Sooner I will go there, more I will get magical power. If I go first, I get 6, second 4, at the third position I have 2 magical power, and if I go at the fourth position I will only have 1 magical power. We can go to the tavern to get some veils. This time the more we will be, the less we will have. If I am alone I will have 5 veils. If we are two, both players will have 4 veils. 3 it will be 3 veils each, and at 4 players at the tavern it will only be 2 veils for each player. You can go to the training area with your wizard, trying to earn some skill points. You will need magical power because you will spend 1 magical power to draw 1 action card. And you will look at the middle side of the card. You will look at the gauge. So for example here I have a third because it is 2 out of 6. After each drawn card I can choose if I continue the training or if I stop. So it's a push or luck mechanism. As I will try to have full gauges, I would continue, so I will spend 1 magical power to draw 1 other card. Here I have more chance, it's 1/2, but still not enough to have 1 full gauge in total. So I will spend 1 more magical power. Here it's quite good because I have with these 2 cards 1 full gauge. This is not enough, so I could stop, use those 2 cards and earn 1 skill point. I choose 1 element and I move on my player board from 1 space. I was not able to use this, but I can keep it for later for another training. Let's say I choose to continue. Here I have more chance, I have immediately 1 full gauge, so I could earn in total 2 skill points, but it must be in 1 element, we can't spare the gain. I can continue, I spend 1 magical power, and here I have an injury. It means I have to stop the training. I don't lose the previous card I draw, I earn them, but I keep the injury. And if later during the game I have another injury, so in another training, I put my wizard on it and he won't be able to play for 1 turn. So you will avoid to have this, and one way is to go first at the training area. Because if you are going first there, you will be immune against the injury for the first 3 cards you draw. If you go second, you have the immunity for the first 2 cards. If you go third, you have the immunity for the first card only. And if you go at the last position, unfortunately, if it's an injury at the first card, you stop your training and you keep the injury. You can go and dig some powerful artifact at the cavern. There are 4 different rooms: fire room, water room, earth and air rooms. You can find different artifacts, different items according to the room. For example, in fire you can get 1, 4 or even each veils, but the risk is that you can get nothing. In water you can have magical power, 1, 5, 10 magical powers or 0. You can find different plants in the earth part. You have magical berries, medicinal plants and magical mushroom. And in air you will find some gauge, small one, medium one and full one. If you find magical power, you can take a gourd that you can drink by 5, not losing the extra. The magical berries, you can use it during a training to draw 2 action cards by spending 1 magical power. The idea is to use it for the final card for which you have the immunity. That way you will be immune for the 2 cards you draw. You will use the medicinal plants to discard an injury during a training so that you can keep going, keep training. And finally, the magical mushroom, you will give it to your mercenary or your assistant. He will eat it and it will change him into a wizard so that he will be able to battle in the arena, for example, or do another wizard action. You can also find sometimes diamond in all the rooms. It is more rare, but if it's the case, you take the token and you can replace it by any quantity of veils. You can also find some fire skill in the fire room, water, earth and air skill in the corresponding room, but again it is more rare. You are not digging for that. So how do we resolve a dig? Let's say I'm interested by plants and I go to the earth part. I draw one action card and I look at the earth part here. So I will get a magical mushroom. If I was in water, I wouldn't be lucky because I get nothing. Of course, if there are several players in the cavern, for example, if there are players in the fire, we first resolve the fire part, the player gets 4, then we resolve the water part, here I get 5, etc. So after that it would be the earth part and finally the air part. You can also go to the sanctuary to make offerings to the gods. There are the 4 elemental statues. You have the fire god, the water, the earth and the air god. Let's say I am interested in air and I would make a 1 veil offering to the air gods. To resolve my offering, I will draw 1 action card and I will look at this table here. There was a little update on the table. When you made a 1 to 3 veil offerings, you must draw an injury to get the divine favor. If you put 4 to 6 veils, you must draw or an injury or a third to be a success, and if you put 7 or more, you even add the half gauge to be a success and have the divine favor. So here I draw 1 action card, I have 1 injury, so it is a success. I have the divine favor in here, and what does it mean? It means that I have 1 air skill. I move on my player board. The other purpose is the bonus of gods. The god where there are the most coins on it is happy. So here the air god is dominant. He will give for each player a bonus in his element for defeating other creatures. So when we are going to battle, we must take in account a bonus in 1 air. We don't move on the player board because it may change during the game. To remember it, there will be an icon on the arena. So for example, on the next round, a player might be interested by putting 2 in the earth. That way the earth god will become dominant. It is interesting to know for statistical, for the sanctuary and the training area, that there are 6 injuries in the game, there are 2 full gauge, and there are as much medium gauge and small gauge. Finally, there is a monk over there. When you're making an offering of at least 1 veil, he is very happy and he will join you for the next round. You will be able to use the monk. He will be like an assistant, with the exception that he won't use black magic, of course. That means you can send him to the sanctuary, give him some money to make an offering, he will be happy too, and join you for the next round. You can attend magical lessons at the university. It is simple. You place your character on the lesson that interests you. For example, here spirit magic. When I resolve the university, I must spend 1 veil and 3 magical power. It is the price of the lesson. It will bring me a bonus. Sometimes it is a one-time use, but others are permanent powers. For example, spirit magic. At the start of each round, I will earn 1 magical power. Cyclonic lesson will give me 1 air skill, so it's only 1 time. Archaeology will allow me to draw 2 action cards at the cavern so that I get more chance to have something interesting. And Spirit Awakening, each time I will make an offering, I add 1 veil to its value. All the lessons, once paid, we put it next to our player board because it's important for the end of the game. If you are sneaky, you can use black magic by going to the Dark Town. You can use one of the 2 available rituals. The first one is a power you will have immediately on this turn, and the second one is to target other players and they will have malus. The other purpose is to get 2 spells and you will choose one. It is also a power you can use at any time. For example, Decimendo allows you to fight 2 creatures in a row in the arena, and Activendius to reduce up to 3 the needed skills to fight a creature. So you choose one, you discard the others, you keep it secretly and you use it. You resolve the effects and be careful, at the end of the game you will lose the prestige points here. You can use it at any time, there is no limitation for that. Each time you are using a spell or each time you are going to the Dark Town, you move here on the Wrath of God's track. And when it is on the lightning, there is the Wrath of God. So the god where there are the most coins on it, so the dominant god, is angry. Each player will lose 1 skill point in that element. But there is also a benefit for the players who triggered the Wrath of Gods. He will be able to discard the weakest spells he used. And then we reset the track at 0. At the end of each turn, we will move on the turn track. Each free round you can see a little icon. 2 things will happen. First, there is the offering phase. If there are some coins at the sanctuary, we clean everything, and then each player announces how many coins he has. For example, here I have 5. We hide everything and we are making offerings for each of the statues. So first fire, then water, earth and air. We will get the opportunity to earn 1 skill points in each element. So beginning with fire, we put some money in hand and we reveal the most generous player earn 1 fire skill. But each player loses their money, even if you're not winning the auction. Then we do the same for water, earth and air. If there is a tie, nobody is winning. There must be a strict majority. For 2 players, there is a third fictional player who will make auctions. We deal 1 for each statue and we reveal at the same time as our offerings. There is sometimes a diamond, 5, 0. You have majority of 0, then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a diamond. If there is a diamond, it wins the auctions, but if there is another diamond, it's a tie. To avoid that, you can add some veils and then we look at who has the most veils. The third fictional player is to avoid the case if I have many goals and my opponent have 0, to avoid to earn 4 skills with only 4 veils. After the offering phase, we clean all the lesson that remains here and we put 4 new ones, and also we draw 1 new black magic card. It will remain during 3 rounds. The game ends when someone has defeated only 6 creatures, and then we look who has the most prestige. So how do we earn prestige? We earn prestige for the creature cards you defeated. Each skill point you earn will bring you 1 prestige point. Here it's for the hunting board, you will earn some points according to the hunting board. The player who has attended the most magical lessons will be the master of university and will get 5 prestige points. You will earn 1 point for each 3 remaining veils. Also you will earn 1 point for a diamond and 1 point per 2 remaining dig tokens. You will lose some points for the used spell and you will lose points for the hybrid creatures. The player who has the most prestige wins the game. I hope you will enjoy Valroc. Don't hesitate to put your comments. I hope the video will be helpful to you. Play Valroc and see you next time. Ciao!